Hey, welcome to Classic Performance. We've got a great upload for you today. We're going back to our roots, kind of the roots of the start of this channel, and we're going back to British cars, British roadsters, kind of what our channel was founded on years ago, and we've kind of moved on to other things, but you never forget your roots, and I promised you several uploads ago that we'd get our MG TF 1500 out, do a little walk around, and maybe have a part two of a kind of a point of view driving video. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about the T-Series MGs, and then in particular the MG TF and the later TF 1500, which this is. The MG T-Type, or they refer to them as the MG T-Cars, is a series of body-on-frame, full-frame, two-seat roadsters that were produced by MG from 1936 to 1955. And the series included the MG, the TA, the TB, the TC, the TD, and then the TF, which was the final production and iteration of the T cars. They're also called the Midgets. This is the TF Miget 1500, and the 1500s are the TFs were produced from 53 through 55. Then midway through the production year of 54, they upped the engine displacement to 1500 cc's, which is what this is. The last of these models, the TF, and then of course was replaced by the MGA, and we've featured several MGAs and a Mark II MGA on the channel before if you want to go back and look at that. But although this design was similar to contemporary cars of the 1930s, it was really outdated by the 50s. But what MG and the parent company of BMC decided was they already had the Austin Healey 104, and they didn't want to compete with the MGA with a full-bodied car. They didn't want to compete with the Austin Healey 100. So back to the drawing board they were, and they took the TD and upgraded it to the TF by integrating the lights into the fenders, sloped the radiator back a little bit. It's just a facade of a radiator shell, and then it has a radiator internally behind it. So that's not actually the radiator, that's a kind of a dummy cap. Went to wire wheels. The predecessor T-Cars had steel wheels, so they upgraded these to wire wheels, which were the 48 spoke wires. This one's been upgraded to 60 spokes for safety. Also, the back was slanted a little bit, so some minor upgrades to enhance the TF models and run them a little bit longer from 53 through 55. So also the compression ratio on the XPAG engine was up to 8.1 to 1, and a little bit larger valves and stronger valve springs, larger SUs, carburetors, and that sort of thing increased the horsepower. So anyway, the TF is very sought after, even though it was kind of a carryover and a design that went on through just to kind of keep this car marketed and sold under the MG brand and not compete with the Healeys. So anyway, that's a little background on the MGA. Let's do a walk around and let you take a look at this particular MGA 1500. There's absolutely no mistaking this car for an MG TF. Like I said, the integrated headlights in the fenders, you can see it now here, the slope back radiator, and as I'd mentioned, this is just a dummy cap right here. This is the first year for the full pressure cooling system. And of course you got your Lucas driving lights right here, Lucas tripod headlights too, which are just absolutely gorgeous. And it still has the hole here for the crank if you did want to crank this car. So as I'd mentioned too, some of the other upgrades included wire wheels. Now these are Dayton reproduction new 60 spoke wire wheels with Dunlop rubber around them. The 48 spokes just looked a little thinner, and they're really not quite as safe as a 60 spoke, and you could go up to 72 spokes with these wire wheels. Full wheel drum brakes. And if you're wondering if this car is a 1500, well, all the 1500s have a call out right here, 1500 TF. So they are badged with a call out for the 1500 cc engine in the last year and a half of production. This car has suicide doors. You always got to be very careful when you operate these cars that these doors work well and latch well. This is a wooden frame door with a metal skin on it. This is wood behind here, and you can see these are just flathead screws, flathead wood screws that go into the wood, and you can see where it's wrapped right here with sheet metal. So this is still a wood-bodied car, and these things can be very dangerous if the doors do not close and latch perfectly like that. Coming around to the back side, I'd mentioned to you that they re-sloped the back a little bit, and you can see how it's moved in just to give the car a sleeker and a more updated look. And of course your spare tire, which also has Dunlop rubber around it, 60 spokes, and then your gas tank. And I'll show you how to check the fuel in just a minute. Very interesting. And of course on the interior, very comfortable interior, but it is tight. And one of the things that of course you'll notice is that the instrument pod is, and I'll turn these lights off here. The instrument pod is right in the center, and of course it's the MG octagons, which is a signature of the MG mark, but they put this instrumentation right in the middle of the car. So depending upon where these cars were sold, it's very easy to move the steering wheel from the left to the right-hand drive or vice versa in production. So that's why this instrument pod was placed in the center. This is for your windshield wipers right here, and then your starting lever, your lights, your fog lights, your choke, and the car even has a clock, and then of course oil, water, and your amps, and a speedometer. So that's just a quick look at the MGA 1500. And then let me show you how to check the fuel. So you got your fuel filler, your fuel tank right here, and there is no gas gauge, if you noted, on the dash. So you've got a couple of ways to check it, and they give you something right here. This was made afterwards, but what it does is it indicates to you how many gallons are left in the tank. So you just take this. Let me get right there. Drop that baby down in there like that. It goes down to the very bottom of the tank. You pull it out. You see where the shiny spot is on it, and it says we've got 6 gallons left. Now, what comes with these cars, of course, is this thing that looks just like a yardstick, and this is the standard engine and car data for the TC, TD, and TF, and it tells you what your horsepower is, your compression ratio, your gear ratios, miles per hour per RPM. So if you wanted to know how fast you were going, that'll tell you right here, and you can calculate that based on your gear ratios and so forth, overall height, all the specifics for the car. And then on the other side is the petrol measuring device. And the petrol measuring device, and they use these same things for TDs and TFs, and down here to TCs, because all three of them had different gas tanks. So our petrol measuring device, we would go by the TD TF scale. You take it, drop it in the tank, and it doesn't quite fit in that tank. You drop it in there, pull it out, look for the wet spot on it, and again, it's right here at 5. So we've got 5 gallons of petrol in this car based on the measuring stick. So that's a little walk around the exterior of the TF. Let's pop the hoods and take a look at the business end and the massive power plant under this vehicle. So to open the hood, you just press the button right here and lift it up. Now I'll drop the camera for a second, put a support rod in here, and we'll take a look at it. So here's what the hood looks like, or I should say the hoods look like on the TF 1500. And right off, as I mentioned to you, this is no longer the radiator. This is just a shell, unlike the previous T cars. And right behind it, you've actually got the radiator right here. And this is a full pressure radiator system, full pressure cooling system, which is the TFs were the first of the T cars to have the full pressure system. And then this is just the business end of the 1500 motor. Now it still has a generator, or known as a dynamo, and distributor with a grease fitting on it right here. And these cars all, you would think they would be 6 volts, but these cars were all 12-volt systems. So very nice that these are 12-volt systems, very easy to get to. You've got your toolkit and toolbox right here, which you probably needed quite often back in the day. And we'll just come around to the other side, show you the SU carburetors, twin SUs, and like I said, these are a little bit larger than on previous cars. And really that's it. Windshield wiper motor right here, and your starting relay. So when you pull the starting switch, it mechanically, with this cable right here, mechanically pulls this switch back, makes contact between the hot and the starter lead, and she spins over and runs. So just to prove that, we'll go ahead and turn the key on, and I've got it in neutral right here. So we turn the key on. You can hear the electric fuel pump run. These have electric fuel pumps just like the TFs did. And then you let that run up to speed. You pull the start lever right here, and she's running. You know, once you tune these cars up and get these SUs set, they are incredibly reliable and smooth running. You know, folks always talk about the you know, British cars, British electrics can be a little fussy, but once you tune the SU carbs and get a T car, an MGA, or even an MGB running well, it will continue to run well for years and years and years. I've had a bunch of them and have really had great success in keeping them running smoothly. So there she is. You know, one last thing I want to point out here about this particular car is the color of it. It's kind of a little bit, depends how you look at it in the light, it's a little bit of an orangey red, and it's also a little bit of a darker red. This is not an MG, BMC, or British Leyland color. This car was repainted in the late 70s with enamel, and it was repainted in Chevrolet Roman red, which is very popular on 58, 59, 60 Corvettes. So anyway, this is a Chevrolet Roman red color. So that's the MGA 1500. If you like classic cars, boats, trucks, airplanes, and particularly classic British cars, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, like the video, and we've got more to come. So stay tuned for part 2 as we take the MG 1500 out on the road.